Warning seniors. 6 hidden reasons elders avoid people. Are you disappearing from life? Why don't you enjoy being around people like you used to? If that question stirred something unsettling deep within you, you are far from alone. Countless individuals in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s find themselves inexplicably pulling away from social circles they once cherished. It's not that they've suddenly become cold or bitter. It's not that they've stopped caring. It's that something profound, something often unspoken and misunderstood, has changed deep inside. And more often than not, this shift is born from a quiet, painful wisdom, not from weakness. In this video, we're not just exploring reasons. We're unmasking 6 powerful, insidious psychological traps that might be silently driving you away from people, even if you were once the life of every party. These aren't surface-level observations. Each one reflects a deep, often heartbreaking truth many older adults experience, a truth rarely discussed openly. Some reasons may shock you. Others might hit excruciatingly close to home. But one thing is certain. By the end of this video, you will understand yourself better than ever before, and perhaps even forgive yourself a little more for needing this unexpected, often isolating space. Stay tuned until the very end, because you'll realize that stepping back from certain people isn't something to be ashamed of. In fact, it might be one of the healthiest, most profound acts of self-preservation you've ever undertaken. Let's begin. Hidden reason number 1. The weight of past betrayals. Why trust becomes a luxury. As time relentlessly marches on, we gather more than just cherished memories. We collect deep, hidden bruises. Some are easy to forget, a minor disagreement here, a fleeting misunderstanding there. But others leave deeper, festering marks. The sting of betrayal, the ache of rejection, the agonizing moments when we dared to open our hearts only to have them brutally dismissed or mercilessly misused. And as we grow older, we begin to feel the quiet, haunting echo of those wounds more clearly, more painfully. We stop offering ourselves so freely, not because we're angry, but because we've learned through bitter experience that not everyone, especially now, deserves a front-row seat to our fragile lives. There's a profound, almost desperate form of protection that grows in old age, a thick, hardened shell built from years of harsh experience. It doesn't always feel good, but it often feels absolutely necessary. And when you've lived long enough to witness how quickly people can change or vanish or wound you, you instinctively start guarding your precious time, your vulnerable heart, and your dwindling trust. This isn't about being cold. It's about being profoundly, defensively careful. Older adults have often loved with ferocious depth, given with boundless generosity, and been let down without warning, time and time again. That repeated, soul-crushing cycle teaches you to pause, to meticulously evaluate, to pull back sharply when something doesn't feel utterly safe or genuinely sincere. You start paying chillingly close attention not just to what people say, but how they make you feel after they've left the room, after the masks have dropped. Psychologists call this relational fatigue, a devastating state where the emotional cost of connection begins to crush the joy it once promised. And it's especially rampant in those who have weathered too many emotional storms. There is absolutely no shame in this. It simply means you have lived, you have suffered, and you have seen what people are capable of, both glorious and grim. And when you choose distance now, it's not out of bitterness. It's the raw, undeniable wisdom of survival. It's the profound recognition that your heart, at this tender stage of life, is something sacred, something irreplaceable. And tragically, not everyone anymore deserves precious access to it. Hidden reason number 2. The craving for peace. Why small talk becomes agony. In your younger, more tolerant years, you may have endured endless chatter that led nowhere. Conversations filled with empty pleasantries, meaningless gossip, or just noise for the sake of noise. But as you grow older, that tolerance begins to thin, like a worn-out fabric, fraying and tearing. It's not that you're suddenly antisocial. It's that you've begun to understand the profound, almost spiritual value of absolute peace. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels nourishing, a sacred balm for a weary soul. And once you've discovered that kind of inner quiet, that deep, resonant stillness, it becomes agonizingly hard to surrender it for the sake of shallow, meaningless company. Take Harold, a 76-year-old man who used to thrive in sales. He was charming, effortlessly outgoing, and possessed an uncanny ability to make conversation with anyone. But now, he actively avoids events that demand endless mingling. He no longer attends large family functions unless he feels truly, genuinely up to the emotional cost. When asked why, he simply says with a profound sigh, "I'm tired of talking just to talk." His preference isn't for isolation. It's for meaning, for raw honesty, for quiet moments that don't demand performance or superficiality. As we age, our emotional energy becomes an increasingly precious, finite resource. The relentless desire to impress fades. The exhausting urge to prove ourselves withers. What rises instead, like a phoenix from the ashes, is an overwhelming craving for authenticity. We demand interactions that feel real, not rehearsed. And if that cannot be found, countless older adults would rather stay home with a beloved book and a calming cup of tea than fill a room with meaningless noise that leaves them feeling even lonelier than before they arrived. This isn't about being standoffish. It's about being exquisitely, ruthlessly selective. There's a profound dignity in choosing your surroundings and the precious few people you share them with. You've earned the undeniable right to fiercely preserve your energy, to prioritize your inner peace, to decline an invitation without a shred of guilt. That's not avoidance. That's profound, hard-won maturity. And the more we lean into this kind of vital discernment, the more we realize that life doesn't require a screaming crowd to be rich, to be meaningful. Sometimes, one deep, meaningful conversation, or even a quiet, reflective evening alone, is infinitely more fulfilling than hours of forced, agonizing interaction. So if you've been pulling back lately, opting out of the empty banter, skipping the noisy, draining gatherings, know this: you're not becoming cold. You're becoming astonishingly clear. Clear about what truly fills you up. Clear about what relentlessly drains you dry. And that clarity is one of the greatest, most profound gifts of aging. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I urgently recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Hidden reason number 3, the unseen wall. When people just don't understand you anymore. There comes a chilling moment in life when you look around and realize the world has shifted, fundamentally. And so have you. The slang is alien. The values are unrecognizable. The dizzying speed of everything, conversations, expectations, even the very nature of relationships, feels almost disorienting, isolating. And amidst all that relentless change, you might start to feel invisible, unheard, or simply tragically out of place. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because people no longer take the time, or perhaps lack the capacity, to truly understand where you're coming from. Take Marie, a 79-year-old retired school teacher. She used to love sitting with her younger relatives, sharing captivating stories from her incredible life. How she raised 5 children, managed a household, worked full-time, and still found time to volunteer. But nowadays, she says, they barely ask questions. When she speaks, they nod politely, their eyes glued to their phones. It's not malicious. It's a chilling disconnect. And over time, that subtle gap begins to feel like a vast, unbridgeable canyon. This is one of the quietest, most agonizing reasons people begin to pull away. It's not that they don't care. It's that being in environments where you're not truly heard, where your wisdom is dismissed, starts to feel emotionally exhausting, like a slow bleed. And slowly, agonizingly, you begin to choose your own company. Not because it's inherently better, but because it feels safer, more authentic. You know how deeply you feel, how much you've lived, how much invaluable wisdom you carry. But when others simply stop seeing it, stop acknowledging it, it's easier, less painful to stop offering it. This kind of loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about being profoundly, heartbreakingly misunderstood. You might be surrounded by people, yet feel utterly unseen. You share a deeply held thought, and they immediately change the subject. You express a genuine concern, and they dismissively call you dramatic. After enough of these soul-crushing moments, you begin to believe that perhaps silence is simply easier, less painful. Psychologists call this emotional invalidation, when your deepest feelings and experiences are subtly dismissed or cruelly minimized. And it's something that affects far too many older adults, more than we ever talk about, because it doesn't happen through outright rejection. It happens through countless small, seemingly insignificant moments that pile up, suffocating you over time. But here's the absolute truth. Your thoughts still matter. Your voice still holds immense power. And just because others fail to hear you, or refuse to, doesn't mean you've lost one iota of value. It simply means you've outgrown certain conversations, certain shallow connections. And that, in itself, is a sign of immense growth, and it's perfectly okay. Sometimes, the solution isn't to force your precious wisdom into their world. It's to courageously find people or places where you don't have to constantly explain yourself, where your mere presence is enough, where someone actually listens, not just waits for their turn to speak. And when those people are few and far between, it's profoundly natural to pull back, to fiercely protect your energy, and to find solace and comfort in your own sacred space. Because in that space, you are finally, fully seen by yourself. And that is never, ever something to be ashamed of. Hidden reason number 4, the fear of becoming a burden, a silent sacrifice. As we grow older, there's a quiet, chilling fear that begins to settle deep within. A fear more potent than illness or even death. The terrifying fear of becoming a burden to the people we love. It's a fear that's hard to articulate, yet utterly impossible to ignore. You desperately don't want to interrupt someone's busy day. You fiercely don't want to ask for help, even when you are silently crumbling and desperately need it. And so, you stay silent. You stay home. You stay devastatingly distant. This isn't about pride. It's about love. It's about preserving your dignity. It's about not wanting your very presence to feel like a pressure, an obligation, a chore. You start turning down invitations not because you genuinely don't want to go, but because you secretly don't want someone to feel obligated to pick you up, to cater to your needs. You hesitate to share your worries, not because you don't trust them, but because you don't want to weigh them down with your struggles. And so, your world quietly, sadly, begins to shrink. Take Frank, an 84-year-old widower who used to spend vibrant weekends with his daughter's bustling family. As his mobility tragically declined, he found himself declining their invitations more and more often. When gently asked why, he said with a heartbroken sigh, "I don't want them rearranging their lives around me. They've got kids, jobs. I'll just slow them down." And while his family never, ever made him feel unwelcome, the crushing fear of becoming a problem, a hindrance, overpowered his deep desire for connection. That's the cruel paradox so many older adults face. The more you need others, the less you want to admit that need. The more you value relationships, the more you tragically hesitate to reach out, because you've spent an entire lifetime being strong, being the caregiver, being the one others leaned on. And now, asking for help feels utterly unfamiliar, perhaps even deeply shameful. This fear is rooted in something profoundly, agonizingly human. The desperate desire to be loved, not out of duty, not out of obligation, but out of pure delight and genuine connection. And when you subtly sense that your presence might be creating even the slightest inconvenience, you begin to retreat, to vanish. You'd rather endure agonizing loneliness than feel like a draining obligation. But here's the profound, vital truth. The people who truly love you want to show up for you. They may not always say it perfectly. They may not always do it flawlessly. But your inherent worth isn't measured by your independence. It's measured by your irreplaceable presence. And if the people around you truly care, your needs will never, ever be a burden. They will be a sacred privilege. Still, this pervasive fear lingers, and it insidiously shapes behavior. You stay quiet when your heart aches to speak. You stay put when your soul yearns to visit. You stay behind when your spirit longs to join. And gradually, terrifyingly, avoiding people becomes easier than risking the unbearable discomfort of needing them, of being seen as vulnerable. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, Please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I urgently recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Hidden reason number 5, the quiet erosion, when old connections simply fade away. Some relationships don't end with dramatic fights or tearful farewells. They simply, tragically, fade. People grow in different directions. Priorities subtly shift. Life mercilessly pulls you apart in slow, almost imperceptible ways. You don't mean to drift apart, you just do. And one day, you wake up and realize that the people who once filled your calendar, who once knew your deepest secrets, are no longer a tangible part of your day-to-day life. It's not always sad. Sometimes it's even peaceful. But other times, it leaves a hollow ache, a profound sense of loss, like you've outgrown something you once fiercely loved and relied upon. You think back on the endless lunches, the late-night phone calls, the shared, heartfelt laughter, and you wonder, where did it all go? Did they change? Did you? Or perhaps, heartbreakingly, both? Consider Ruth, a 73-year-old woman who used to take weekly, soul-refreshing walks with her best friend from high school. Over time, those walks became monthly, then yearly, and then, devastatingly, not at all. There wasn't a fight, no bitter falling out, just a quiet, undeniable realization that they no longer had much of anything left to say to each other. Their lives had irrevocably diverged. Different interests, different rhythms, different worlds. Ruth confessed, "We still care about each other, but I think we've said all we needed to say." This experience is far more common and far more painful than people realize. Relationships built on shared seasons, raising kids, working together, living nearby, often simply don't survive when those seasons inevitably end. And as you courageously move into the later, more introspective stages of life, you may find yourself surrounded by people who no longer genuinely fit who you are becoming, who you have evolved into. That's not a failure. It's a powerful form of growth. When you start fiercely prioritizing your limited time and your precious energy, you naturally, almost instinctively, become more selective about who you choose to spend it with. Not because you're better than them, but because you're crystal clear about what you truly need, about what genuinely nourishes your soul. And sometimes you simply need space. Space to think, to reflect, to simply be. Old friends who once energized you might now feel profoundly draining. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly might now feel forced, awkward, like pulling teeth. And rather than forcing it, rather than agonizing, you choose distance. Not out of malice, but out of a deep, abiding self-respect. People often lament that aging means losing people. But what they don't always truthfully say is that sometimes you choose to let go. Because you've learned through painful experience that closeness without genuine connection can be infinitely more lonely than being truly alone. So when you pull away from certain people, it's not always about avoiding others. It's about profoundly honoring the monumental changes within yourself. You've evolved, and that's something to embrace, to celebrate, not to apologize for. Hidden reason number 6, the profound joy of your own company, finding sanctuary within. At some profound point in life, you simply stop seeking crowds and start savoring solitude. Not out of bitterness, not out of loneliness, but because you've discovered something deeply profound that far too many people never learn. Your own company is, magnificently, enough. There's a certain kind of profound, encompassing peace that settles over you when you finally realize you don't have to endlessly explain yourself, or relentlessly entertain anyone, or pretend to be more or less than who you authentically are. For decades, you may have been constantly surrounded by others, through demanding work, overwhelming family obligations, societal expectations. And in those years, you might have rarely, if ever, had a true moment to just be, to simply sit in stillness, to hear your own thoughts without constant interruption, without judgment. And once you finally taste that precious freedom, that sweet, liberating quiet, it becomes sacred. Not something to desperately escape from, but something to fiercely protect, to cherish. Take Gerald, an 82-year-old man who once lived for the social buzz, the constant hum of interaction. His house was the legendary gathering spot, his voice the loudest, most boisterous in the room. But in recent years, he finds far more profound joy watching birds from his quiet porch than hosting grand, exhausting parties. When asked if he gets lonely, he smiles, a knowing, serene smile, and says, "I've got enough stories in my head to keep me company for days." What he's discovered isn't loneliness. It's deep, abiding contentment. This powerful shift often bewilders and confuses those around you. They might worry. They might foolishly think you're pulling away out of sadness, out of depression. But in truth, you're just tuning into something far, far deeper. A rhythm that's quieter, yes, but infinitely richer. A life that's less crowded, certainly, but far more profoundly full. You no longer feel the desperate need to fill every silence, or to meticulously explain every choice, or to be endlessly available to everyone all the time. And that's not avoidance. It's pure, unadulterated wisdom. It's the kind of inner clarity that comes only after decades of noise, of relentless giving, of stretching yourself thin for the sake of others. Solitude, when chosen with intention, transforms into a sacred sanctuary. It's where deep healing happens, where profound reflection flourishes, where your truest, most authentic self finally has the unencumbered space to breathe, to simply be. And the older you get, the more you realize that some of your absolute best days don't involve anyone else at all. You walk at your own pace. You think your own thoughts. You do exactly what pleases you. And for the very first time in a very long time, you feel truly, undeniably free. Not because the world has changed, but because you have finally, courageously, claimed your rightful space within it. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I urgently recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Final thoughts. Embracing your evolved self. So, what spoke to you the most today? Which of these 6 profound psychological reasons felt hauntingly familiar, like it was written with your very life in mind? Perhaps it was the quiet, melancholic ending of old connections, or the sting of past betrayals. Or perhaps it was the profound, liberating realization that your growing craving for peace is no longer something you need to defensively explain. Whatever it was, I desperately hope it reminded you of one critical, empowering truth. You are not broken. You are becoming. Avoiding people doesn't mean you're bitter, or cold, or antisocial. It might mean you're profoundly, unshakably wiser. You've lived through decades of complex, often painful human experience. And those years have earned you the sacred right to be selective, to fiercely guard your inner peace, to honor your own unique pace, and to find true, lasting meaning not in the chaotic noise of others, but in the quiet, undeniable knowing of yourself. There's profound dignity in solitude. There's immense strength in setting healthy boundaries. And there's real, liberating freedom in no longer needing to prove your worth through popularity or endless, exhausting socializing. If you've been subtly drifting away from people, take a precious moment to gently, honestly ask yourself why. You might find that what you've been seeking isn't absence. It's a deep, authentic alignment with who you are now. And let this video be a powerful reminder that even in your stillness, you are seen. Even in your quiet, you are profoundly heard. And even in your solitude, you are never, ever truly alone. Because there are countless others, just like you, navigating the same complex, beautiful path with grace, courage, and a deeper, more profound understanding of what truly matters at this precious stage of life. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how it resonates with your own experience. Your thoughts are incredibly important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us immense motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.